Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another round of racing here at VSK. We are here for another year of racing after what was a very fun year here. Did finish P12 in the championship last time, so now it's all about getting back out on track and seeing if we can capitalize on the experience that we've gotten from that entire year of racing and see what we can do now.
And you heard it there, another year of racing here at VSK. We are just going out for qualifying. I had cart number 17 in this session, which turned out to be a fairly decent cart, so I was very happy with that. We are on brand new fresh tires, so you see the goal is just to scrub them as much as possible, get those tires to where they are gripping the road, because right now it's like driving on ice skates. You get no grip out of the cart at all, and that is quite challenging to drive on, especially if you're trying to go fast. So it's all about just wear down on those tires as quickly as possible, get them up to temperature. It is a little bit of a chilly day. You'll see I do have a jacket on. So we do have to make the most of what temperature we can find and what grip we can find on this track. My session ended up having quite a few newer drivers, so we will have to move away from all of them and make our way through what is going to be a very challenging spot to get a lap. And onto the lap we go, crossing the start-finish line. This was my final lap and my final attempt. So there was no other attempts besides this one. If I didn't get the lap in now, I wouldn't get it at all. Around the second corner, fairly decent amount of speed, but we are catching up to some lap traffic here. And if they hold us up, that's the end of our session. So we're going to have to hope that they give way, and it's going to wait till the very last minute to give way, but we do get by. So the lap is still on, but there's another car in front of us slowing down just before the end of the session. And around the final corner, they are also going to give way, so we're managing to just barely hold on to this lap, and across the line, it was enough for first in this qualifying session, which is going to put me P2 on the grid for a Group A race. That is a potential podium, a potential trophy, and maybe even a race win. So it's P2 on the grid for the first Group A race of the day. That makes me the fastest, or the second fastest car on the grid, although we got cart number 9, which didn't turn out to be a fantastic cart, so it's going to take some effort to hold this position, and it's going to take a whole lot more effort to manage to overtake the guy in P1. We are swerving the car, trying to get it warm, trying to get the tires worn in. And we're not all that concerned with keeping up to the guy in front. If he wants to rush ahead and leave the field behind, he can do so. We are just going to drive quickly here for a second, get a feel for what the cart is like. It didn't feel bad through the corner. It didn't feel great, but it did not feel bad. So that was a good sign to me, at least when I first drove the cart. After the fact, you always have a little bit more knowledge to go in with. And it's going to be 3, 2, 1, green flag, and away we go for the first race of the new year. A little bit slow off the line, but we're going to go side by side and just barely hold on to the position for now. We have the outside line, they have the inside line, and we're going to have to go a little bit wide as someone punts us from behind. But that's holding on to P2 for us, so that's still a good position. And now we're right with the leader. We're going to have to push forward and try to catch back up the slight gap he got at the beginning. And it looks like he's just a little bit off his game because we are catching just ever so slightly. The driver in front is a brand new driver to the league as well, so I don't know anything about his driving style, about his driving habits. So this was a learning opportunity for me to sit behind and figure out what he's able to do and what he's going to do. You can see on the straightaway just struggling a little bit. You can see just how soon he pulls away in the top speed. We're going to get a big bump from behind. That's going to slow us down, and they try to make the move with a bump like that. A little bit of little bit of time loss, as you can see how far the kart is now in front of us. The kart I was driving really only had cornering speed, so if you get bumped mid-corner, you lose all of your advantage in a kart like this, and it's really not good for your race. But down onto the straightaway again, you can see just how quickly he pulls away. I have to put a glance over my shoulder to make sure that the guy behind isn't going to go for a move. Because if the driver in front is making a run like that, then the driver behind surely is doing the same thing. These karts should all be equal performance on the straight, but they just aren't. Not maintained well enough. They're rental karts, of course, which means they get driven by just about everyone and anyone. From someone with no experience to someone with all the experience, and that can do some damage to the kart over time. And damage does certainly play an impact on whether or not your kart will be good, but we have caught up to the leader yet again, so we'll have another shot at trying to make this move. But you can see just how quickly he pulls away on the straightaway. And it's just a little bit insulting for me, because you can see we catch out of the corner and then all of a sudden we stop gaining any time on him. We're much, much faster into the corners. We're much faster out of the corners, but we're struggling a little bit with that top line speed. And that top speed is really what's important here at VSK. If you have top speed, you can make overtakes. If you don't have top speed, you're going to be stuck behind forever. And another bump from behind just tells us that we are not getting the corner exits and the straight line speed that we need. But we're closing initially here. And as soon as we get into the high RPMs, the kart in front just pulls away and just opens up the gap. So where we were pulling on corner exit, we're no longer pulling on corner exit. And it's really, really hard to deal with when you're right behind them, but just not able to keep up out of the corners. It makes it very, very challenging to make up any sort of position. But we are going to continue because we are right here with him. There's always a chance for a mistake and always a chance to make up the move. And once more, getting a little bit of a bump in the braking zone. It doesn't affect us too much, and we're right with him again. But again, just exiting the corner, he's going to get a launch, a phenomenal launch, and the car is going to go down the inside for P3. And now we are going to go around the outside, just barely holding onto the position. We're going to force him narrow and still try to stay side by side. We just barely get nudged wide. It's a fair move on him, and he has made the move. So now we need to hold onto the position as P4 is looking to make the pass as well. And P5 sends it down the inside with no space. And there really wasn't going to be space. The drivers are just sending it for where there just isn't going to be an opportunity to overtake. We're going to get another bump from behind in the braking zone, but we do just manage to keep it out of the bumper of the guy in front. And we're going to continue to follow along on the straightaway now. P4 is still fine points for me, and plenty to start the season with. So as long as we hold on to this position, I will be plenty happy. Another look over the shoulder tells that we are going to have to worry, and that guy's just going to send it straight through. Raise my hand to try and tell the stewards, hey, that move is not allowed. But too late into the corner, and it's going to cost us another position. We just can't get any straight line speed getting pushed around. We are going to make back that position there, and this is P6 right now, I do believe. So what was a P2 start, thanks to a little bit of slow straight line speed and some big bumps, has sent us all the way back to P6. And on the straightaway, you can see just how much quicker the karts are. And there's really nothing to do there. From a driver who was quickest in his qualifying session to barely able to keep up on the straightaway, it's a very, very difficult thing to deal with, and really nothing for me to be able to do. If the kart is just straight up slower, you can't drive it faster to make the most of it. And we're just going to turn a little bit too soon, not noticing the guy on the inside. Absolutely sent it for the space and made that move very nicely. A driver who I forgot to talk to at the end of the race, who wanted to talk to me. But just raising my hand, shaking my head, just very, very upset with the kart right now. Especially with what it could have been if I had gotten a good kart. That was an easy P1. The driver in front was not driving quick enough to run away from me, even with the damage to this kart. But still, the goal is just to push on and stay with him, see if we can't catch up to these karts in front of me and make up a position or two. Although it's looking very unlikely with the current situation. So we're going to just have to pay attention in front and behind. And right now in front is looking practically impossible to catch with the gap that's already been opened up. So it's just going to be look over my shoulders, make sure the guys behind don't catch up, and make sure we hold on to this P7 position. P7 is still not terrible for the season, although considering what it could have been, I would have preferred to have been farther up the grid and able to make up a move or two. But really only was one move for us to make up in the beginning of this race, and that was for P1. And it's a shame. It's a real shame. I would have loved P1 points. And you can see, look over the shoulder how close the guy behind is. So we're going to have to pay attention to that and try not to lose this position. He is right there with us as we go through turns 2 and down towards 3. We're going to get a good exit, so we are fairly safe into turn 3. Turn 3, of course, if you get a bad exit through turn 2, turn 3 is the spot to make a move with hardly anything a car can do about it if you have that overspeed. But right now we are feeling very secure and we are getting back to our pace, just holding on to whatever points we can as we once more cross the start-finish line to complete another lap of racing here in the start of the new season. And of course it is the start of a new season, so there's always a chance to come back next month, come back the next month after that. We got a whole 24 races this year, and only 12 of them count for points. So there is a good shot that this result will get dropped if I can get 12 better results. Of course, it just takes from your highest point scoring races, so there is always that chance that someone like me who's competing all season will have an opportunity at the top spot multiple times over. And it's a good learning opportunity, being able to drive a kart that isn't quite on the pace and drive it on the pace. It's challenging. It's certainly a challenging experience, and you have to adapt your driving style. It's one thing that I worked on a lot last year was adaptation, and I will continue to get better at that, as well, rental karts are about the best spot to get good at that. But now once more crossing the line, and it is just going to be holding this position until the end. There's not a shot that we can catch up to the drivers in front unless they make some huge mistakes, possibly spin out, and a bump from the car behind on corner exit is going to slow us down and slow them down even further. And really, for karts like this, those little bit of bumps don't matter, but for a kart where all of your speed comes from the corner, every little bump slows you down on the one part of the track that you're actually quick at, and it just lowers the overall pace significantly. White flag, final lap. We just have to hold them off for 40 more seconds. We're going to go fast around turn 1. A good exit is going to keep us safe. And turn 2, a little bit of bumping, so we are going to have to think about defending. A glance over the shoulder tells me that I'm all right to continue on my line, and it's going to be a little bit of a late move if he does want to make one. We're carrying good speed through the 4th corner, good speed for the 5th, and now down into the hairpin. Another glance over my shoulder tells me he's not close enough to make the move, and now it's just a good exit onto the straightaway to protect ourselves, and we will hold on to P7 for the first race of the day. And across the line, here we go. Checkered flag is out, and this is our position to hold. Although he certainly went for it at the end there, side by side on the straightaway. A little bit of shake of my head. I was not happy with the kart, and definitely not happy that the issue was prevalent. But there is always the second race of the day, and P7 is still not a bad spot to start from, so we can make up a few positions here if we get a good kart and drive it well enough. And that was a worrying conversation to have with a steward at the very beginning of the race. This kart had a very, very high idle, and that had me worried that there was a stuck throttle. Just counting the karts real quick, because we had one kart drop back, and that ended me up in P6. It will be transferred back to P7, but I was just confused why we had a kart slowing down. Seems they had a little bit of a mismatch with the positions, so we're going to have to give way to someone on the very end of the formation lap. They will pass us before the grid, hopefully. But you can hear it already with just how loud the engine is. This kart was running very, very high on the RPMs, which, while it can be a good thing, it's certainly not a good thing in a 10-minute race where you're going to be overheating the kart and overdoing it on the throttle. And a stuck throttle like this is certainly going to affect your braking performance, as you just can't get the kart slowed down as well if the RPMs are high.
Because it keeps the RPMs up. So honestly, I would take advantage. It's my favorite card. It's got my PV.
It's certainly a worrying conversation to have before the race, but we're not going to get much chance to think about it. It's green flag and away we go for our first round, second round of racing for the day, but first round of racing for the new season. We're going to go down the inside. A little bit of a poor launch with this kart. I don't know whether that's me being slow or the kart being slow, but we're right with the guys in front, so it doesn't really matter anyways. We're going to move over, squeeze the guy on the inside. That might have been a little bit too aggressive from me, but I didn't get a penalty for it, so the stewards ruled it fine. We're going to go down the inside, hold it side by side with this guy. He's going to have the inside for the next corner, just getting bumped just a little bit wide. A taste of my own medicine there. And now we have to follow behind him into the hairpin and down the straightaway. We'll see if we have the straight line speed to keep with the guys in front or if we lose out again. We're gaining initially and then we're losing on the high RPM, so it is a little bit of a struggle in this kart, but we are staying right there with him for now as he is getting held up by the karts in front. With as many karts in front, you tend to stay all bunched up together. It takes a little bit for everyone to spread out, so you don't need as much pace in the beginning of the race in order to make up positions. You just need to be very, very aggressive. And aggressive is what the car on the inside is being as they try to make a move. Not able to hold on to it as I hold it around the outside, but it does lose us time, and I do have to defend into the hairpin. So a little bit of time loss, but we're going to gain that back immediately. That's what I was talking about with those cars in front all being held up. Now we have a little bit of a run down the straightaway, but you can see just as soon as we get any sort of speed, this kart just suffers, and it can't hold its own. And considering I told the stewards before the race, it's very, very disappointing that you can see an issue, but you can't always have that issue fixed. And it's not really the stewards' fault. Stewards do a wonderful job, but there's just not enough of them for the amount of karts that they have to watch over and the amount of drivers. As a guy goes down the inside, very late maneuver for him. I just barely give the space, and we are going to hold on to the position, but he's going to make it on the straightaway for sure. As a look over my shoulder tells me I'm not going to be very safe. Shaking my head, I'm very disappointed in the kart, very disappointed that some things got ignored, and right now very disappointed I'm not keeping up with the guys in front. We just got to continue to push though, see where we can end up. We're not that far away and it's not impossible, but the guy goes down the inside again, the same move he's been making. We're going to just barely nudge him out wide to get a little bit more space, go fully defensive into the hairpin to hold onto the position, and it's going to be defending from now on out, as I don't really think we can keep up with the guys in front if we were having to defend constantly. So down onto the straightaway again. It's going to be a look over my shoulder, make sure that I don't open up the inside, but I open it up, and we're going to have to go a little bit wide around the outside. We're going to get pushed out onto the barrier. No penalties there, surprisingly, as I lose 3 positions by being forced wide. I was side by side to deserve the space, and we're not given the space. So now we're stuck right with the guy in the blue helmet. And we're going to be here for a little bit until we can make this move, or if we lose to the karts behind. But we have a little bit of a gap, so we are safe to fight. Finally, at last, we're safe to fight, and we'll see what we're able to do. As onto the straightaway, a little bit of a poor exit for me is going to make it dramatically worse with the already poor straight line speed of this kart. Duck my head to try and gain as much time back as I can, and it's going to be a run onto the straightaway to try and make back this position that I so desperately need. considering the start of this race was P2, it's very, very disappointing to fall back so far, especially when I was the fastest in my qualifying session. So obviously there's pace here today, and obviously I was running quick, but I'm just not able to make the most of it. But right now we are making the most of it, as we are going to get a run out of the corner. You can see the distance closing, but as soon as the RPMs climb, so does the distance between our karts. And I'm just not able to keep up at all on the straightaway. I need a monumental exit in order to stay with him, and a little bit of bouncing through the second corner, just trying to carry a lot of speed, as much speed as possible. I go over the limit, and that's going to cost us some lap time. It's going to cost us distance as well, as we are now falling back just a little bit from the kart in front. A nice smooth entry into the hairpin is going to carry plenty of speed, and that little bit of a bump on exit, very, very difficult section there if you hit it wrong. You can lose a lot of speed on exit, but we have gotten it right and just barely scraping the wall on the outside, staying nice and committed on the power. I might have carried a little bit too much speed. It's a very tricky corner. It's not quite a 90 degree. In fact, it's more of a 100 degree corner. So you're doing a lot more steering than you actually anticipate. And there's quite a few corners like this where they are exceptionally difficult and exceptionally tight compared to what they appear. As we're going to go side by side, and now we're going to have a run side by side onto the straightaway. A little bit of contact with the bumper, and it's going to be all to gain for the kart behind us, as he's going to gain one position. I'm going to try and follow down the inside. We make the braking, and we're side by side down into turn 2. Heavy braking for me, heavy braking for him. I'm going to leave space on the outside and hopefully get this move done, but we're just going to get forced wide yet again. Raising my hand to tell the stewards, hey, that's not allowed. And while these karts say no bumping, while we do have penalties for no bumping and no advantage gained by that bumping, it's just not being enforced properly. And with just 3 people watching the track, I've said this before, it's just not enough people to watch a full race. But we're still in this race, and there's nothing we can do to change it now. So we're going to continue to push and try to keep up with the guy in front. Nice smooth turn 2 is going to bring us right to the bumper of his kart, but he moves over to follow the racing line, and we just weren't anticipating it soon enough, and that's going to be a little bit of contact made, and unfortunately we could not capitalize on that attempt to make a move. So down into the hairpin again. It's going to be a good exit for me, nice and smooth. So we're going to see what we can do as we go down to the straightaway, staying right with him, right in the slipstream, but it's just not enough to pull us forward. And that tug is not enough to make the move just yet. But we're going to stay right here with him and continue to push forward, see what we can do. It's not over yet, and it's certainly not over with the distance between us. It's much, much harder to make a move when your kart is not fast on the straightaway, though. The straightaway is by far the easiest spot to make a move. And if you can't exit the corners well, you have to make up all of that time in a single corner. And that is very, very difficult to do. It takes a lot more skill than I really have to offer. But a monumental exit finally is what we have. As we're going to close in significantly, stay right with him through turn 2. And a little bit of an attempt down the inside is going to get a side-by-side. And he's just going to make contact with the car and stop us entirely. Races his hand, but he's the one who initiated contact. It's all on him. And he nearly forced me off onto the barrier. So now, down towards the hairpin. It's going to be heavy braking yet again, nice and smooth, as we stay right there with him, potentially getting the move done here as we get a big run. And we're going to try to go down the inside. He's going to close the space and just barely keeping control of the kart as he makes contact with our car. The door was open. We saw the move in front of us, but just got closed off while we went for it. And while the rules do state you're only allowed space once you're alongside, you can't block to stop someone from getting alongside. Otherwise, that would make racing a little bit more difficult if you could just move over and block your opponent. But down to the hairpin yet again. We're going to see if we can't close this gap, see if we can't close the distance. We know we're quick on the straightaway now, so it's all about capitalizing on that and seeing what we can do as we're going to slowly reel him in and try to make this move before the end of the race. We are running out of time. We're running out of time very, very quickly in this race, so we've only got about 1 or 2 laps remaining, as we're going to see the white flag very shortly, as the steward over there has the white flag out. So it's all or nothing now, as we're going to get a nice wide exit. A little bit of a bump is unfortunately going to slow us down. I anticipated that he was going to carry more speed through the corner, but we are still right here, and we can still gain time. We're going to be right on his bumper as we go down the main straight for the final time down the main straight. White flag is raised, so final lap. 1 lap to make this move done, and all he has to do to defend is just hold the inside line. And he's gonna make a little bit of a mistake. We're gonna get side by side, but again, making contact with the car for no good reason. And it's just going to force us off onto the outside line. And turn 4, we're staying right with him. Turn 5, we're losing out. And now down into the hairpin, I'm not close enough to send a move. And it's going to be the end of the race here. There's really nothing I can do unless he makes a monumental mistake, and that mistake will not come. So it is me in P11 for the day, I believe. And unfortunately, no penalties given either way. There is plenty I would do at VSK to change up how the races are being run. Of course, that is my view as a driver and someone who helps run online racing. So it's very different than real racing. So we're going to bring the cart in. There was a driver today who did want to talk to me. I know I sort of stormed off. I was a little bit upset with these races. It's certainly not my day. So if you are watching this, do get in contact with me. And yeah, it was a good day of racing. I had fun regardless. It could have been better, but it's what we got. And we're just going to come back stronger next month.